Welcome to the commentary booth, where we watch and you guessed it, commentate on the week that was in movies and TV. I'm your host and play by play commentator Jamie Apps, and each week I'll be joined by a rotating cast of colour commentators to help you find your next viewing treat. This week I'm joined by a teacher and travel blogger who lists their favourite movie as Fight Club, favourite TV show as Band of Brothers. Welcome back to the show, Buddy McClelland.
Thank you for having me back.
How's everything going? I saw you had a little bit of an incident with your Ethernet cable this week.
Yeah, my puppy chewed through my Ethernet cable. One of a few, but luckily it was the one that I don't really use too much. But I came out and it was in two pieces, completely separate. I'm very glad it wasn't a electrical cable because I may not have a puppy still. So yeah, everything's been extra puppy proofed now.
That is very true. It is lucky that it was the Ethernet cable and not the power cable for the Xbox or the computer or whatever. The
Yeah,
TV.
yeah.
The
She's
TV
part
would have been
puppy.
worse.
Yeah, it would have been. She's part puppy, part crocodile. But
Yep.
we're getting there.
Yeah, because your TV cable, I assume it's like most TVs. It's like attached. If it breaks, the whole TV breaks.
Yeah, it is. I haven't really thought about it, but it is. But it would be a good excuse to
Yeah.
get a new TV. But I don't really want an excuse to get a new puppy, so we'll just keep it as it is.
Yeah. Was Anne at work or something?
No, we just we are trying to get her to that stage, especially with COVID. Like it's you want to get them to a stage where they're happy to be alone. So when you go back to work, that they're not freaking out. So we've just been trying to go out for like a walk for an hour a day without her, or like just be in a different room, just give her space to get used to being alone. Otherwise, like she's super cute. Like she just wants to be around you all the time. But when we're not there or not able to be there, it'll be really challenging. So yeah, she definitely had enough time to chew through it.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, we have a camera that you can like watch her with and flick. Like it has an app that comes with it, and you can flick treats out to her. But the camera can't see everywhere all at once.
Of course, you went for like the most ridiculous, insane setup for your puppy. You didn't just get the crate and some. Here's a bunch of toys. Go nuts.
Nah, had to get the camera and had to get the treat feeder camera. It was a cheaper version. One of them was $400. So this is the like $200 version.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, I got the knockoff.
Oh, well, knockoff still does the same job, I guess.
It works.
And what have you sort of? Okay, thanks, Greg. What have you been watching the last few weeks since we last spoke?
I've had a bit of a mix, to be honest. I started getting back into, like I said, those commercial streaming services. So I managed to hook up, I think 7+ I've been going through for two reasons. The first thing that got me onto there was I just got hooked by the ads from SAS Australia. After Survivor finished, I kind of needed to get onto something outdoor and insane. So SAS Australia started. So I've been watching that episode by episode, which has been pretty cool. But it's very intense, and it gives you kind of flashbacks to any type of army training you've ever done. Obviously, it's not the same like SAS version, but just that whole procedure of being yelled at and broken down and told you're doing everything wrong and just to get on with it anyway is, yeah, it's fun to watch from that perspective as well as watching the celebrities deal with it.
Yeah. Do you sort of have any memories of the army training that sort of this is like it's flashbacks?
It was like basic training with Kapuka. So you go there for like a full month, and it's 6 a.m. in the morning through till 10 p.m. at night, and they give you just 8 hours, and you go again every day. And it's like first thing in the morning they're shouting at you until last thing at night they're shouting at you, and yeah, it brings back memories of people like being this far from your face and like spit flying in you, but you just kind of. It's a really good challenge and a really good test, and it's good TV because it shows people's true character. I think like it's a lot of the people that talk a big game or try and have them sort of puffed out chest and pretend they're something they're not. These people are there to find out if you are actually that, and they obviously with the challenges and stuff that they do. Like so far, they've had them in and did a car going into water, and like they had to get out and hold their breath under the water and get out of the sinking car. They've done challenges with heights, and that always gets people with heights because it's just you're naturally afraid of it. They've done challenges where they had to drag themselves through it would have been a good 50-meter tube, like a tunnel, and then the tunnel gets tighter as they go along to a point where like
Oh,
Sam Burgess is in there and he's like massive, and he
he's
had to go
halfway through
like,
the tube and just stuck.
yeah, he's sitting there and he's like, I can't fit. Like he didn't seem scared as much as he just couldn't actually physically fit. And they're like, no, you can fit, you can fit. You just got to crawl yourself along. It took him like 40 minutes to get through it. But
Jesus.
yeah, it really shows people's true character. So it's got some good character mixes in there as well, I think. So it gives Sam Burgess, I think I heard, was the one of the biggest, highest paid celebrities that they put on there. I think for the celebrities, they've tried to pick people that have a bit of background drama to make some stories. And obviously, he had a bit of drama after he left rugby league with separating with his wife and drugs and all sorts of stuff. So obviously, it makes for more interesting TV. So I think I heard they paid him 150 grand for one season. So, and I think people are all kind
Jeez.
of just under that. So I think originally it was him and Pete Evans were supposed to have the two matching highest contracts, but obviously Pete Evans, after the whole COVID debacle,
That they were like,
they just,
let's not promote this guy.
yeah, no, so he's not on there. But I would have liked to watch him suffer a little bit doing that, but he's not on there. Yeah, they got
Yeah,
other
I
people.
saw I saw a headline today. Apparently, Michael Clark, the former cricket captain, he was asked to be on the show, and his fee was higher than Burgess's, so they turned him down. Like they turned him down because he wanted too much money. I'm not
Yeah, okay.
sure exactly what it was. I didn't read the full article, but it was like, holy
Yeah.
cow! Like if
Oh, they've got some of the stories
it
really
must have been
interesting.
ridiculous.
Some of the people are kind of just there, like Manu, the chef, is there just to have people. There's a good mix of different sort of characters. There's people who used to be on like Australian Idol or whatever. They've got Mark Philippoussis, Alicia Molik is there. The oldest competitor, I think, or the oldest person there is Kerry Potas, the beach volleyballer from the 2000 Olympics. So she's like
Okay,
55 and doing it, which is massive. Like these challenges are physically demanding. Kobe Abberton, the bra boy, is on there. So that's what originally got me into it, because I follow him on Instagram. But then watching him on there was interesting. He got caught out cheating, not doing all the push-ups he was required to do, and they just blast people. Like
so
they,
it was him that was the cheater on the ad that I saw.
it was him, yeah. And he reckons he miscounted. He did 16 push-ups instead of 30. He reckons he just lost count.
Because you were only off by like one or two.
Yeah, that's what they said. Look, I don't know.
Yeah, like if you were under by a couple, they I don't think they'd have cared, but that's
Yeah,
half.
yeah. So it's interesting. It'd be interesting to
Was
see. They can leave at any time on this show. Like it's not like a every week someone gets voted out situation. It's everyone
okay.
gets a number and they got like an armband for their number. And if you want to leave, you just hand it in and then they just let you go. So some of the people have already left, just couldn't handle it. Bryn Edelston, I think, was the first one to go. So he used to be married to that Jeffrey
That doesn't
Edelston.
surprise me.
Yeah, no, it didn't really, but yeah, it's interesting to see them go through their own battles. Some of them they're about to leave and they push through and they're proud of themselves on the other side. And I think the directing staff like Ant Middleton and the guys that are all ex British Special Forces, the people that run it, they do a really good job of walking the line between psychopath, like crazy, like get your head in the game sort of situation, to being not friendly but like counselors almost. Like they kind of let people have a chance to be brutally honest. And each episode, they kind of take two different people into, like, they make it look like a hostage situation, but they take two people into a room and give them a chance to sort of unload about why they're there and what's happened in their lives. Yeah, and I think it works really well. They're pretty good at walking that line between intense and caring.
Yeah, yeah, it doesn't just become like abusive to the point where it's
Yeah,
hard to watch as a
no,
viewer.
no, yeah, they're not. But you can definitely see the years and years of army in them
Mm,
that has just trained them to be able to put people on blast straight away, and there's no coming back with them. I wouldn't like to argue with them ever.
yep. Just a quick shout out to my Dreamsicle on Twitch who just gave us a follow. Uh, so what you were saying about your experiences at Kapuka, it wasn't a COVID safe environment.
No, people got really, like, you can get very sick. Like yeah, not very. So I don't understand how they would have run. I guess they've tested everybody and worked it out for them. But yeah, Kapuka was, yeah, obviously not the same thing, but you couldn't leave if you wanted to like that, which made it a bit more intense. But it was the same situation where people that were the ones that I remember a guy that we drove in on the bus before they get you out and shave your head and stuff for me, and I remember him telling me, "Oh yeah, people just can't hack it and they can't hack it this and that." And I'm sitting there freaking out, like, what did I get myself into? And I reckon within a week, that guy, we went up on a high ropes course. He froze on the high ropes course and managed to get himself sent home within a couple of days. So I think people learn that the best thing they can do is just to be the grey man, they call it. So you don't want to be the person at the top. You don't want to be the person at the bottom. You just want to get on with it in the middle. So yeah, it's interesting to watch.
Has there been a grey man on this series, do you think?
I think it would have been Kobe until he cheated. I think they're expecting him to get through the whole thing. I'd expect him to get through the whole thing. Um, I mean, it's too hard for some people. Like Sam Burgess, obviously, is too big to hide. So, like,
Yeah.
yeah. There's a couple of people floating around that are just going okay, but yeah, Kobe for me.
And then sort of out of our friends, do you think there's anyone that would relish the opportunity or someone that would really, really struggle?
Oh, plenty of, like, most people would really struggle. I think that's the idea. I mean, I think SAS selection, they take like 100, say they take 100, 200 people in there to try and do it. And for Australia, I'm pretty sure you only get one chance. So they take 100, 200 people, and I think they're aiming to pick maybe two or four people. Like it's super competitive, and the only way that you can ever go back without um, leaving, like if you leave, that's it. You never get another go. But I think you can get one medical chance to go back. So I mean, most people I don't think could hack it, but that's what makes it interesting because I think most people could make it through a few weeks. I mean, you've obviously got the Shawns and everyone that love that challenge, but
Yep.
it's not just the challenges; it's the relentlessness of day after day after day of it is the thing that they get you with. I think a lot of the time people think they're looking for physically strong people, but my experience of seeing people that are commando or whatever like that, they're generally people that are kind of unassuming. Like it's not a big person; it's a mentally tough person, and that's not something you can see.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
yeah, that's
I
the
know
interesting part.
when the ads first started coming on, my mum was like, "Don't ever, I never want to do anything like that." Like she's like, I will just start crying." I'm like,
Yeah,
"Yeah, probably."
some people do.
It'd make for funny TV if they did it with just like regular Australians, I guess, as well. Like,
Yeah. I guess the interesting part here is you can see like people know the background stories of some of the celebrities.
yeah,
So you get a bit more insight. You don't have to have so much explained to you from the start.
yeah, true. They can just dive sort of right into it and not have
Yeah.
to
And they've obviously tried
go
to
on
get a
this.
big cross section. They got Heath Shaw, they got an AFL player as well. Like, they've tried to obviously get there's like a home and away actor. Like, they've tried to get a real cross section to tick everyone's boxes, I think.
And does it sort of culminate in someone like winning the series, or is it just like, hey, you all achieved and got to the end of the course?
This is my first. I think this is the second season they've done, but this is the first season I've watched. I'm assuming it's just a celebration of whoever makes it, but I'm not expecting. I think they started with 20 odd. I think it's 17, um, and I would be banking that. I reckon.
You just dropped out there. Do you want to just repeat that?
I reckon there might be four of them by the end of it. Like I don't think they're going to have many left over out of the 17 they started with. Like it's yeah. The idea is to get them to quit, but sometimes it's funny. Like they quit and the guy running it gives him a big pat on the back and was like, "Yeah, you made the right decision. Like you weren't going to be able to get through it." So yeah,
Jeez.
interesting show.
Do you think Burgess makes it to the end?
I think he will. Like maybe he's got a pretty battered up shoulder and stuff like that. Unless you never know, people take a fall and they do some stuff like where you can actually hurt yourself. Um, so you never know with injuries and things. I think he's in the headspace that he could, but it's obviously going to be hard being that big. The first thing they did was gas them and make them suffer through gas going through their lungs and out their mouths and nose. Like they're not messing about.
Jeez. And then on my front, I just sort of watched a few different things. The main one being Nicolas Cage's new movie called Pig. Have you
Is it
seen
about a
trailers of it?
pig? Is it about a pig?
Sort of. So Nicolas Cage he plays a truffle hunter in like the wilderness of Oregon, and he has a pig because that's like how they find truffles. Pigs are apparently better than dogs, so he has this prized truffle pig, which is like suddenly stolen from him in the middle of the night. And then it sort of goes into a kind of John Wick, or Nobody-esque movie where he's like going into Portland and like trying to find like who stole my pig and trying to track it down. But instead of going to like that over the top nature where John Wick goes, where it's just like crazy violent and action scenes, this one's much more subdued and more about the emotions and dealing with like loss and grief. And you've come to learn that his character was this like really well regarded and renowned chef in Portland who, when his wife passed away, gave it all away and goes to live out in the wilderness by himself, alone with his pig, and just focuses on that. So the movie's split into three sections, each with like they're split based on a dish. So like it's a dish that he makes, and it like kind of wraps up what's going on in that section of the movie. And it was a really cool one. It was like cool to see Nicolas Cage like in his recent movies. He's been like a real over the top sort of almost a caricature of himself.
Yeah.
Whereas this one, he scales it right back, and it's a really subdued and much more real and gritty performance that I actually really enjoyed.
Yeah. Yeah, I've heard he's pretty
He,
out there. Actually, when I was
oh yeah,
reading Seth Rogen's book, they were talking about having him try and come in and play the villain for the Green Hornet, which rough movie, but um, apparently when he went in there, he just was very out there. Like he wanted to do like a Jamaican accent and just add things to the character that didn't need to be there, and they were just kind of giving him all the rope he wanted because he's Nick Cage.
yep, yeah. Like in, I think his last movie I watched was called The Color Out of Space, and it's like some weird alien sci-fi crazy movie, and he's ridiculous and wacky in that. But then this one, yeah, he's much more scaled back and more real. I think the craziest part of the movie is we find that there's an underground fight club for hospitality workers, and that's probably as close as it gets to John Wick in that sense. But yeah, I think it's definitely worth a watch if you like sort of those type movies where it's about emotional aspects.
I think the title's got to turn a lot of people off. Just pig.
Just pig, yeah,
It
yeah.
sounds like a horror
When I
film.
And the way that, like, they promote it, it looks like a horror film, like, the cover and everything, like, the poster looks like a horror film, but,
Yeah.
yeah, it's not, it's definitely much more of, like, just a drama, so it's one of those ones where you sort of have to watch the trailer to then be like, "Okay, yeah, I actually do wanna watch this movie."
Yeah.
And I was doing some research, and, I found that it was produced on such a small budget that they weren't able to get a trained pig for the scenes where they have the pig at the start. They gave it a quick sort of crash course, 3 days of training, but, it still bit Nicolas Cage multiple times. Eh, and the budget was that small that they had to complete the entire filming process in just 20 days, and they
Yeah.
had no option for reshoots or rescheduling if the weather was bad or there was multiple mistakes and they didn't have time to finish a scene. They had 20 days, and this is how much money we've gotta finish it
Yeah.
in that time. But it's worked out. It's now Nicolas Cage's highest rated film on Rotten Tomatoes.
I did see
Mm.
it got good ratings. It's crazy.
Yeah, it was one I was going in like, yeah, this is just going to be another wacky Nicolas Cage movie. And then, yeah, when you sort of maybe 10 minutes in, you get that real scaled back performance. I was like, actually, no, this is different. It's probably not what a lot of people are expecting. It certainly wasn't what I was expecting, but totally worth it. Like, really emotional film. And I think the only way I can wrap it up is it's a Michelin star worthy offering.
Oh.
And then the other movie I watched it purely because I knew I was gonna talk about it with you. It
I
is called
saw
Superhost.
this. I cannot watch. I saw the trailer, and that is not for me. That'll ruin my whole life post COVID.
You don't wanna go to an Airbnb and suddenly be attacked by a murderous Airbnb host?
No, thank you. It's a big trust thing when you go and stay in those places. Like, there's been times when we've stayed in places and it's literally like a room in somebody's house. Like, we've had a place we stayed accidentally in the red light district of Geneva in Switzerland, and it was 2 single
Good.
beds in a room of somebody's house, and it was like he shared the bathroom with the guy, and it was like still, there's like pink shag rag mats on the ground and like the plastic shower curtain that if it touches you, it makes you cold.
It sticks to you, and it's just
Yeah.
gross.
And the whole time you're just telling yourself, nope, they've got good ratings. Nope, they've got good ratings. It's fine. Like, I'm going to be okay. Like, I cannot watch a movie like this and then go and do that.
Yeah, I think those Airbnb things, they feel a little bit safer when it's just like, yeah, here's an apartment, here's the code to get in, and you won't ever see me.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
when you're, yes, sort of sharing the same space, that feels very weird to me.
Yeah. And we do a thing, like, especially unless we have to stay, like that Geneva one wasn't, but most of the time, if we can try and stay in places, we actually do hit the Superhost button on Airbnb. So you're guaranteed to get somebody that's got all these really good ratings. And we purposely look for places like the one from I only saw the trailer for the movie, but like they're doing, we try and look for unique places to stay in random places that are Superhosts. It's too many alarm bells for me, this movie.
Okay. Yeah, so this one is now streaming on the horror service Shudder, and it follows two travel vloggers named Teddy and Claire, but they've slowly been watching their YouTube channel decline in viewership. So they decide, hey, we're going to pivot slightly. We're still going to do the travel stuff. We're still going to go to these crazy, outlandish Airbnbs and places to stay, but we're going to make the content more about the superhost themselves and do interviews with them at their house and sort of get their backstory. And then it just turns out that the Airbnb host of this particular residence is named Rebecca, and she has a sinister side that we don't sort of come to know about until partway through the movie. And it ends up becoming this ridiculous, like over the top, silly horror thriller thing where the tension just like builds and builds and builds because you're like, this lady's weird, but I don't know why she's weird. She's just like constantly around and creepy, and then eventually it just goes to this like really gruesome, bloody ending section. And yeah, I saw it and I was like, oh yeah, I definitely got to watch this one with Buddy because I'm sure he's got some stories of strange, crazy travel hosts.
Yeah, we
But
have. The craziest one I've had, I think, just don't ask me why. It forced us to drink mulled wine. Like when we first arrived, somehow twisted the conversation into, "Do you guys like mulled wine?" And I'm like, "Yeah." Anne loved it, and I was like, "Yeah, I'll just try to be polite." And she's like, "Oh, I know what I'll do. I'll come back with the ingredients for some mulled wine." I'm like, okay. And then
okay.
like we're just kind of trying to hang out and relax or whatever. There she is, turns up with all the ingredients. Oh, are you going to make some? We'll see how we go. Obviously, she works out we're not going to make it. Comes back again. I've made you some mulled wine. I'm like, I don't want to drink this random lady's mulled wine. In the end, Anne just drank all of it and was fine. But some people are just, I think some people are just lonely.
Yeah, they've just sort of put their place up on Airbnb so that like they have that interaction with new
Yeah,
people every week.
yeah. I'm like you. I'd prefer to do the give me the box code and get out of it. But sometimes it's just, yeah. Some of the best ones we've stayed in have always been like they look really good on the photos and things, but the hosts are actually a lot closer than you realize. So we've stayed in one like at the top of LA that was a 1960s um, like a caravan, the silver bullet caravans. Those ones that are like they look like all
Yeah, the like
silver
the
Airstream. They're called.
Jetstream thing or
Yeah.
what are they called? Yeah.
Yeah, so it was there, and it was parked on this top of this hill that overlooked the entire downtown of LA. And they just renovated the whole inside. And it had its own block, and you thought you were completely by yourself until you realised that the house next door that looked into the yard was actually the hosts. So they were just watching you the whole time anyway. Like
Okay,
it's
yeah.
yeah, the hosts are always around.
Yeah, they knew you weren't having like any ridiculous parties or anything
Yeah,
in their caravan.
yeah, exactly.
Is that your probably your craziest travel story as well?
Craziest travel story. Oh no, I had a rough time in Prague. I I will never go back to Prague. I got bailed up by a security guard at a nightclub because he decided that I must have looked like an easy. He was a massive guy, St. Burgess guy, decided to pin me against a wall. And then when I didn't have enough money in my wallet to give him, marched me to the ATM through the club like no one cared. and I had to like lie my way out of there to just say, "Oh, that's all the money I have. That's all the money I have," and give him some money and just leg it. I don't know. It must just look like a soft target or something. Um, then the next day, because I wasn't really thinking straight still. They don't run euros, so they run like Czech crown. So I accidentally, when I got money out, pressed an extra zero on the ATM, and
Uh-oh.
instead of taking out $300 worth of crown, I took $3,000 worth of crown. Um,
Oh,
and we were leaving like the very next day. I think it was a Sunday, and then I had to before 9 a.m. get to the exchange place because nowhere else in Europe will take their money. So I had to try and get all my money back and change it all. Lost money doing that. I left Anne with somebody at a vineyard where she was having wines and stuff. I just wanted to go back to, I think we're in a hostel at that point. I just wanted to go back and hang out. My phone went flat I think I was on a tram at that point, and I got lost in the middle of Prague with no phone. And I don't know if you've ever seen like Czech language, but it does not make sense. It's like
it's just gibberish if you have no idea what it says.
letters are backwards and upside down, and like it's just all over the shop. So it took me hours and hours and hours. So Prague is a lovely place to look at, but I'm not going back to Prague.
Yep. Yeah, their language is like you're not deciphering it just by looking at it for a little bit and be
No.
like, "Oh, maybe it's this."
Yeah, I think we had in Glasgow, right after we got engaged in the Isle of Skye in Scotland. Um, we had to pay the taxi driver for some reason in Glasgow with cash. I had to go, same thing, I had to go to an ATM. But he started scoping out Anne's engagement ring while I wasn't in the cab with Anne. Um,
Oh, jeez.
yeah, that was a bit sketchy. I nearly got beaten up at a railway station after we went to Pompeii. Didn't think like I just thought, oh, I'll just wear. We were staying in Rome, caught the train out to Pompeii, did our Airbnb experience, which was really cool. So they don't just do the stays or whatever. They also do the experiences where you can book someone that's an expert in something, teach you how to cook, whatever. So we booked
Oh, okay.
like an archaeologist expert of Pompeii, and they took us around Pompeii. Awesome.
Sweet.
But we went from Rome, and I thought I was super cool wearing my Roma soccer shirt that I just bought. Didn't think about it like here you can just wear your Dragons jersey to Sydney and people will maybe yell at you, but that's about it. Didn't
Yep.
think about going through Napoli and like out to wherever in the middle of Italy. And this guy was just scoping me out on the train station. Like he walked past me, I think probably 6 or 7 times. Got on the train, he kind of walked through the train, eyeing me off. I just wanted to yell, "I'm Australian, I'm sorry, I don't know."
I
Leave me
I don't
alone.
know the rules.
I don't want to die for this team. I just thought the shirt was cool. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's like wearing like a United jersey in, um, London or something, like, it's just don't do it,
yeah.
like, you're just gonna get messed up.
Apparently, if you wear the Rangers jerseys in different parts of Glasgow, um,
Mhm.
or Celtic jersey in the wrong
Or
part,
Celtic, yeah.
people have
If
been
you're on the
killed
wrong
for it.
side of town.
Yeah, like actually killed. So yeah, I learned my lesson. Thankfully, by the time I got to Scotland, that was a bad choice.
But it sounds like, Europe sketchy.
Yeah, you know what? Like you just learn. Like I wouldn't do that again now. I think you get lucky sometimes. People obviously get unlucky sometimes, but that's part of the traveling. I think you do dumb things and you learn.
Yep. Did you have any sort of crazy experiences in the US? I know I had a couple.
I got bailed up by a homeless guy one time in Philadelphia. No, we were pretty good. I think a lot of the time the language barrier kind of helped us out. I mean,
Yep.
people hear that you're Australian over there, and they kind of just give you a bit of extra rope because they think you're funny and you ride a kangaroo to work like The Simpsons. But
Yep.
yeah, I found it a little bit easier there. We were in New Orleans when somebody got shot in the street, and came back out of
That's
a bar we were in, and it was all police taped up and crazy. But other than that, we're pretty good.
yeah, I think the craziest one I had was both in LA actually. I was wandering around trying to find the last bookstore, turned a corner and was like, "Oh, I'm on Skid Row. I don't want to be here." So I turned around, walked away from there, and then on one of the days before the wrestling at the Globe Theatre, we were sitting in the bar next door, and then all of a sudden there was like a big uh, Muslim like parade that nobody, not even the Americans that lived in LA knew that this was happening, and it just started going down the street, and they had, like, this big, like, sheet placard thing, and it was painted with red paint that looked like blood, and that was just terrifying to be sitting in this bar, walk outside, I was like, "What is all the noise?" And then you see that, and you're like, I'm just gonna go back in here because I don't know what's going on right now."
Yeah.
And yeah, we just ended up sitting in the bar until the doors opened to the theater, and then we went straight in there.
Yeah, I think LA, like a lot of the homelessness in America is the worst thing. Like it's insane. I knew it was
Especially
bad.
especially in California where it's quite warm, so there's heaps of them
Yeah.
and outdoors
Well,
all the time. They're
New
not in
Orleans
shelters or
after
anything.
the hurricanes and stuff that they get, like that was pretty bad. So yeah, sketchy.
And on the travel front, you were checking out another returning series as well that's a favorite of
Yeah,
yours, I think?
my favorite probably travel show, but it's sad that it's the last season. So season 5, the last season of Travels with My Father. Um, so that's on Netflix, and it's a show with comedian Jack Whitehall, who travels with his father Michael, um, who just became part of his like comedy routines. I think a lot of his material starting out was about Michael, and
Yep.
Michael turned up at a show and just became almost part of the act. So his dad's quite a lot older than him. He's 81, and he's
Okay.
very proper, like very proper classic monarchist British guy. His favorite person in the whole world is Winston Churchill. Just yeah, very very upper class classic Englishman.
Mhm.
Um, who I mean, they started season 1. I think they were in Vietnam to start him out, and they all purposely put Michael in positions that would make him upset and make him react. And then through
Yeah,
the
they
seasons,
just
it's kind of
wanted him to
become
be uncomfortable all the time.
yeah, 100%. And he just reacts. He's so deadpan and he's so funny. But through the seasons, it's become this really cute, funny back and forth between the two of them of trying to throw the other one off. Um,
Mhm.
and it's just really genuine, funny. So really, you can see the nice connecting moments between father and son. Like there's a real genuine love there that makes it really cool. So it's a bit sad that their last kind of seasons they started with 5 episodes, I think, or six, um, and then they've gradually kind of gotten smaller. So they did Australia, they did the US, and then their last season it must have been a lot easier to do with COVID, but they just stayed within the UK, um, and basically travelled around, did England, they did Scotland, and did Wales. And it was really interesting. I think their mum this time, so Hillary, Jack's mother, planned it out for them, and they kind of just went together. So if you've seen the other seasons before, it's a really nice way to send it off. They're super funny. The father is hilarious. I think it ticks a lot of boxes for people that it's not just a travel show. Like it does show you places that you might want to go, but just it's a genuine nice show for a father and son. My mum watches it and thinks it's hilarious. We watch it and think it's hilarious. And so they've got 3 episodes this season, two of the actual traveling, and then the final episode is them sitting in a theater watching back like a best of together and talking about it.
Okay.
So yeah, really worth the
Yes.
watch. It's not much there. There's only I think it's 2 1 hour episodes and a 30-minute like wrapping up episode.
Okay. So, like, this time they sort of neither of them had idea of what was sort of on the agenda and what was coming?
Yeah, I think they had little bits here and there. Like they do some like classic folk dancing and things. It's always just funny stuff that they get into, like cold water swimming. Just random things. I think they do the Edinburgh military tattoo, and they dress up in like kilt and go down the streets of Edinburgh trying to play the bagpipe, and they fly in Spitfires. Like it's yeah, there's really cool stuff that they get to do. But watching an 81-year-old, like he's still so well put together for 81, and like Jack Whitehall is a funny comedian, but his dad I think really steals the show.
Okay. Do you feel it sort of impacted the show in a big way that it was they sort of had to stick to the UK, or do you feel they still managed to keep it interesting enough?
I think if it was earlier seasons, it would have impacted it. I think if it was season 1 or season 2, where you're trying to get to know them a bit more, it would have impacted it. But I think by the time you get to season 5, I couldn't care where they went. I'd still watch them if they made a show just sitting in their living room. So I think it's fair enough for them to only be able to go around the UK. They found enough stuff to make it interesting and random stuff that you wouldn't think of.
Mhm.
But they can pretty much do whatever and just make it funny.
Thank you, Rodrigo Sevilla, for following on the Twitch channel. So yeah, like, uh, is there a reason that this is the last season? Is it just purely because it's like becoming too difficult to do the international travel now? Do you think?
I think age probably is one of the. I think they say in the season that they're talking about moving out of London's Hillary and Michael, so Jack's parents. They're
Yep.
talking about just retiring and settling down. I mean, he's 81, traveling around and having your son throw you in a Spitfire and doing all that stuff. It's a lot. So I
Yeah,
think
probably not
five
ideal.
seasons is plenty, and you can tell that they ended it on a high note rather than kind of fade out and just push it for the sake of it. It's a really nice, sentimental, cute way to finish. Like that, it's really nice.
And you were watching another movie as well. What was that one?
Yeah, I watched Land. It's called. So it's a movie about a lawyer who has some hard times with her family, loses her son and her husband, and basically is on the verge of being suicidal. But rather than do that, she decides that I'm just going to give everything away and go to move out to the Rocky Mountains by myself. She buys some land, tries to get all the supplies she thinks she would need, throws her phone in the bin, and takes herself out to this like really stunning old shack that some old man's apparently died in and left it. And lives in the Rocky Mountains or tries to. So she does her best for a little while and has to face all the things you can imagine facing out there, like bears and trying to get your food and all sorts of stuff, and the weather. In the end, when the winter kind of comes around, she kind of realizes how unprepared she is, and is basically on the verge of death when a local hunter manages to stumble across her. So he says that he can see a fire chimney, smoke coming out of the chimney and burning at the time when he walks past, but when he comes back, it's not burning anymore, which is a bad sign in the
Okay.
middle of winter. So he thinks to go and have a look in there, and he finds the lawyer on the floor, on the inch from death. And then basically the two of them kind of repair their lives together, and he teaches her how to live out there, and they kind of bit by bit piece together that they both had pretty hard times and they're out there for different reasons. But I tend to like those movies. I think that somewhere in me is that feeling that I'd love to be able to escape everything and just live off the grid in the wilderness. I don't think it'd be an easy thing to do, but I think it's a really interesting concept that people sometimes can do. I'm always a sucker for those like wilderness Alaska shows and things like that, where people are out and living on solar panels and having to fight off bears and stuff. So yeah, it's kind of a movie version of that. It's got a real sad undertone to it. Like it's got a lot of pain that she's obviously out there for. It's not like a positive. I'm doing this to be happy. She's kind of
Yep.
running away. But it's interesting to watch her face her demons. I think the actress that plays the lead character, I think named Robin Wright, she does a really good job of being able to just be almost, other than the one other character, the hunter, like other than him, it's just her. So she does a really good job of being the only one out there and using all the wilderness and things around her and making a good story. I enjoyed it, but not a happy story.
Yep. Yeah, so she sort of has to carry the whole movie,
Yeah,
essentially.
basically, other than some bears and things, but she does a really good job of, like, she gets to a point where she can't even cook things anymore and has to just basically eat the frozen soup as like a clump of ice. But she's so desperate
Ugh.
to eat it. Even acting that, like I was watching her eat the frozen cold soup, it looked bad. But you can see that
Yeah.
people would get to that point where you just have to do anything to survive. And yeah, I guess it gives her a bit of a reality check on the romance of living in the wilderness, because I don't think it'll be easy.
Yeah, you don't just have a electric heater and stove or gas stove or whatever.
Yeah,
It's
yeah. And it's funny, they kind of use wood chopping as the way to show you how she's progressing. It's kind of at the start she can't even chop a piece of wood to save herself, and then towards the end of it, once it's like a bit of a montage, she's just like slamming through the wood chopping and getting through it. Like, yeah, it's good to watch her grow and deal with her demons.
is that on Disney Plus now?
I rented it through Apple TV, but I'm not sure what it was streaming on. It was like a $4 rental for me.
Okay. I think it might be on Disney Plus. Let me
Right.
just have a quick look. I'm pretty sure it is actually. So you might have paid $4 that you didn't have to pay.
Oh well. Don't tell my
What's it
wife.
called? Land. Actually, no. I think the movie that I'm thinking of is. No,
Land
is
Before Time.
Nomadland. No,
Ah, yeah.
Nomadland. Close, but different, and I think it also has Robin Wright.
Yeah, very similar.
Let me have a look. I'm pretty sure it is. Nope, Frances McDormand.
They look kind of similar though, don't
Close,
they?
close, but
Yeah,
not the same.
yeah.
The
Good
names of the
movie.
movies don't help, and I think they cover similar topics where it's just like a lady that goes out and
Yeah,
lives by herself.
yeah. I think there's a lot to be said. Even like living in, I guess where I'm living in an apartment now for COVID lockdown after 12 weeks, but there's a lot to be said for being able
Weird.
to get away and connect with nature.
Yep. Yeah, have you been still, like, doing the hikes and stuff or just
We've tried, but
smaller local ones?
yeah, the local ones are quite busy. So we've done a couple, but I mean they're busier than ever. So it's yeah.
Yeah, I imagine the old Sublime Point one's getting a fair
Yeah,
workout at the
I didn't
moment.
even bother. We try to do the less known local ones, and the less known local ones are still busy. But I think all the best ones that we try and do are the ones, obviously, where we got lost out near the waterfall, the Gerringong Falls, and places like that, like the big adventure ones. We can't do them at the moment because they're not within our LGA.
Yep. Yeah, no, like, the ones we would usually go over to the beach and walk along there, but we didn't even do that. We were just going to, like, the local cricket field because it was fully fenced in, so we could just go there, let the dogs off, let them just run around, and we could just slowly walk around and not have to
Yeah,
be worried about them running off somewhere.
yeah.
And then to close out the show, I watched the debut episode of season 2 of Morning Wars, also known as the morning show outside of Australia. They had to change the name because obviously we have a TV show called The Morning Show,
True.
so they couldn't use that here. And this is a Apple TV exclusive drama series starring an incredibly stacked cast: Jennifer Aniston, Reese Witherspoon, and Steve Carell. Season 1 saw Jennifer Aniston's character Alex Levy struggling to sort of keep her breakfast news program afloat after her co-host Mitch Kessler, played by Steve Carell, was embroiled in a sexual misconduct scandal. And this sort of when this show came out, it was like right around the time of the Me Too campaign, so it was like really quite relevant and poignant at the time. And then we had Bradley Jackson, played by Reese Witherspoon, step in and become the new co-anchor, and then her and Aniston sort of they slowly come together, build the show up, but then they start to develop a rivalry because Alex starts to think that Bradley has only been brought on because she's a younger version of herself, and they've it's like that weird like job training thing where you're like, I'm training my replacement.
Yeah.
So then that builds up, and then at the end they have this at the end of season 1 they have this big moment where they go on the air and they lock the producer out of the control room, or the head of the network out of the control room, and they just blast all this information about this person, this person that have been like sexually assaulting and abusing their staff and things like that. And then it just ends on that big cliffhanger moment. You're like, oh
Mm.
god, where's season 2 gonna go?
Yeah.
And then on Friday, just gone, season 2 came back, and it's immediately following on from that moment. They're rushed out of the off the set. They take them back to their dressing rooms. They lock the door, and they're just in there like trying to. They're freaking out about, oh no, what's going to happen now? And then we flash forward to current time. The get a like a flyover of New York, and it's just empty because it's the COVID lockdown period.
Yeah.
And then we get the opening credits, and then it goes back to 3 months or a few months post their on-air outburst, and the network has changed. There's all different people in charge, except for like one or two key figures who were not embroiled in all the scandal, and they're trying to build back the reputation of this show because it's obviously taken a massive beating with the perception in the audience of people being like, these people all suck. Like, why should we support this show? And it looks like the show is going to build around them rebuilding that a little bit of Me Too aftermath, but it's also going to focus on the looming COVID pandemic because it's set just as that's sort of coming in. So there's a moment the first episode where a sort of junior producer comes in and is pitching stories to the head of the production team. Should we cover the fires in Australia? Should we cover this, this, and this? 26 people have contracted a flu-like virus in China. Should we cover that? And the producer just blows it off as like, that's not gonna be anything. Like,
Don't worry
don't worry
about it.
about that.
Yeah.
Let's do the fires, do something else, and the royal baby as a happy ending thing. And it's just like, okay, maybe you shouldn't have disregarded that news story.
Yeah.
And then throughout the episode, we sort of see people in the background of scenes coughing and sneezing, and you're like, oh no,
Here
oh
it
no,
comes.
chaos is about to drop. And yeah, like again, just with the cast, with everything this show sort of does, hitting those major topical things, it feels like a really important show, and it's my personal favorite of the Apple TV offerings.
Yeah. I've heard it's got
Ted
good
Lasso,
reviews.
Ted Lasso closely behind, but sort of very different. You have the silly comedy, and then you have this really high quality drama that's moving away from sort of the real heavy topic of Me Too and more into just like a more modern soap about like a news program in modern day.
Right, so it's fully drama, because I assumed when I looked at it with the cast of Jennifer Aniston, Reese Witherspoon, Steve Carell, that it was going to be just a comedy show, especially with the title. I guess it's different for them, but Morning Wars to me makes it sound like a comedy.
Yep. Yeah, no, it's a full drama, like
Right.
it, and it's obviously taken little bits and pieces, like influenced by Me Too, it's influenced by COVID, so it's got those touchstones, but it's not like directly linked to any individual in particular or anything like that. And
Yeah.
yeah, there's funny moments, but I definitely wouldn't class it as a comedy.
Yeah. Okay.
And I looked at some of the stats. It also has this second season has introduced a character who I absolutely adore, the actor himself, Hassan Minaj. He also has a show on Netflix that's like news broken down into like this fun sort of almost YouTube style show where it really breaks down the news and explains the stories behind the story.
Yeah.
So he comes in as a co-anchor, which was really cool to see him pop up in something other than his Netflix show. And I was looking at some of the trivia. Obviously, with that cast, this is a very expensive show to
Yeah.
make. I want to give you a challenge. How much do you think that it costs them to make per episode?
Well, now you're telling me to aim high. I'm gonna go with per episode. Oh, Reese Witherspoon's worth a lot, isn't she? I'm gonna go with.
Mhm.
I'm gonna go 750,000 an episode.
Not even close.
$1 million.
Nope.
2 million.
Nope.
5 million.
Keep going.
10 million.
They are dropping $15 million an episode,
Whoa.
and the first season was 10 episodes.
They got that iMac money.
Yeah, this is the Apple money they can afford to.
Wow.
Jennifer Aniston and Reese Witherspoon alone get $2 million each per episode.
The dream.
Like, wow,
Yeah.
what a moment!
That's crazy.
But yeah, like if you haven't watched it, I highly recommend going back and watching that first season and trying to catch up, because the second season, Apple TV, obviously, as they do week by week. So there's
Yeah.
only one episode of
Gotta get
season
their
2.
money's
So
worth.
yeah, they can't just have you drop in and buy 1 month worth of
Yeah.
Apple TV. You got to buy at least 2.
Yeah. That's crazy. It seems like
Yeah,
Apple TV do that. They don't have as much content, but they really put the production value into the little bit of content that they have.
Yeah, it's like they obviously, Apple has the money that they can afford to give 2 actors $4 million.
Yeah. I mean,
Um,
Netflix probably could if they just stopped making so many things. They take the opposite approach. They're going to make all this stuff and see what's good.
Yeah, and throw everything at the wall and
Yeah. See
hope
what
1 or 2
sticks.
stick.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think, Apple sort of go on that prestige thing of like, if we put something out, it's worth your time.
Yeah.
So yeah, you've got this, which 15 million an episode. I can't imagine Ted Lasso is cheap with sort of the quality behind that show and the writing team.
Yeah.
And then there's the other show with Jason Momoa. C. There's
Oh
one
yeah.
with one with Chris Evans. Yeah, so I think they do a great job of putting out stuff that's actually worth your time. If it's on Apple TV Plus, it's worth at least giving a shot. If you might not enjoy everything that they do, but you can definitely see the quality that's put into each thing.
Yeah.
What would be your top recommendation for this week?
I definitely have to say Travels with My Father. I think it's just one of those completely underrated Netflix shows that once you start watching it, especially if you've never seen season one, you've got a whole stack to just grow and love. Start it if you haven't started it, and if you have started it, you'll love the last season. So Travels with My Father.
Okay, for me, it's Pig. Like it's a movie that I think everyone will enjoy some form of it. Like whether you enjoy like the food references, or if you connect with the emotional aspects of grief and stuff like that, there'll be something in there that it captures your attention. Uh, Morning Wars, I think, is great, but yeah, it's a pretty old one now, even though season two's just kicked off. And yeah, for you got to watch the Superhost.
I'm never watching the Superhost. I will never leave my house.
Yeah, your travel blogging would be
It's
down the
over.
toilet.
Yeah, no
It'd be
way.
all Zoom blogging.
It's hard enough already.
All right, that's everything for this week. Thank you for listening to the commentary booth. If you enjoyed the show, please remember to rate, review, and subscribe on podcast services here on twitch.tv/JamyAppsMedia and on YouTube with the archives and everything over there. You can follow Buddy on Instagram at a.b_csee, and he's a crocodile dog. He's at
Crocodile dog.
the
Lady
Lady
dot
Graham, is
Graham.
that it?
Lady dot Graham. Yep.
See her chew through. What's she going to chew through next?
The best thing is I taught her the treat bell. You see that one? She knows how to hit a bell
Uh,
and get a treat now.
how badly is that bell driving you nuts now?
I had to remove it.
It felt like a good idea at the time, and now it's like, oh no.
It will be a good idea eventually. We're just trying to get her to a point where she can ding it and go outside. So it's going to be so I don't have to open and shut the door all the time. When she needs to go out,
Yep.
she'll ding it. So we're getting to that link. But at the moment, it's just ding, ding, ding. I want some food. So yeah,
Yep.
it'll come back.
Yeah, thankfully for me, Toby just he'll sit at the door and he just like paws on the door and just like clicks his nails on the door
Yeah,
as if to say like, open the damn door or I'm gonna pee in here.
yeah, that's good.
Which,
I think I've just got too
which
much
is
time.
Yep. Yeah. That video with the bell definitely made me laugh. I was like, you're gonna regret that decision.
Oh, she's funny.
And you can follow me on social media at JamieAppsMedia and at Pario Magazine. The commentary booth is a fan-funded production of Jamie Apps Media. You can support the podcast alongside our magazine, Pario Magazine, on Patreon at patreon.com/JamieAppsMedia. The following people supported at the community support group level or higher, and you cannot fathom how incredibly appreciative we are for their support. Brian and June Hart, Courtney Paulson, Jackson Carr, Kat Benstead, and Tracy Apps. Awesome. Let's